people, and welcome to Vlogmas day 19. Today is question and answer day. Thank you so much for all of your questions. I took a look through them and you guys are really good question askers. I was really surprised by some of them. So I wrote them all down. I have them here and I consolidated all of the doubles and I think I got them all, but if I missed one, I'm sorry about that. But first things first, let's actually open the advent calendar for today, day 19. It's coming down to the wire here, running out of windows. Let's see what we have here. It's so cute. It says sidekick with a little kitty. Oh, my kitty is my sidekick. He's always at my side. He actually can't go up to the sewing room though because the ladder is like vertical. He can't get up there, but he is my little sidekick when I'm down here. He actually spent last night in the vet because he has a bald spot on his belly, and so we wanted to get that checked out and see what that was about, but he's home now and he's resting. He's fine. He has some medication, but yeah, he's resting. I think it was a little traumatic for him, the poor baby. But anyways, okay, let's get on with the questions. Number one, I'd like to know what your favorite type of garment to sew is, also least favorite. So my favorite type of garment to sew is sweaters. I love sweaters. I wear a lot of sweaters. You can make sweaters out of a lot of different types of fabrics. There's a lot of versatility and types of sweaters out there. Lots of different styles, and I especially love sweaters that have interesting details like cool necklines, like a twist in the front or something interesting like that. My least favorite garment to sew is, I'm not really sure I have a least favorite type of garment. There's actually a lot of garments I haven't really sewn, mostly out of fear, pants, bags, workout clothes, bras. And so I've really kept most of my sewing to blouses, dresses, like a couple jackets. But if you watched yesterday's video, my Make 9 2022 plans, I plan to remedy that, and I want to broaden my horizons in the coming year and make some of these types of things that I've never sewn before. So I think maybe I should revisit this question at the end of 2022 after I've sewn a few different types of things, and I'm sure a least favorite will emerge from that. Okay, next question, to piggyback off of that question, is what is your favorite pattern you have sewn so far? It's really hard to choose a favorite. I'm kind of one of those people whose favorite pattern is the last pattern that they used or made. So I will tell you which patterns that I have repeated. I've repeated the Pattern Scout Comfy Lounge Set and the True Bias Nico Top. On my list to repeat soon is the Sew House 7 Toaster Sweater and the Zadie Jumpsuit. So that is like the most I can narrow it down at this point. So I hope that works for you. Two people asked, what is your favorite fabric to sew with? And that's also a hard one. It's so hard to pick favorites because I can usually find something about every different type of fabric to love about it. But I will say I really love sewing wovens, particularly cottons and linens. And that is mostly because they give me the least amount of trouble, and that creates a more enjoyable sewing experience when I'm not like wrestling with fabric. So I also have a soft spot for rayon challis because they're always so pretty, and they usually come in lots of different prints and lots of different colors. And I love the drape of rayon challis. I think it's so beautiful. Okay, what has surprised you most about having a YouTube channel? Something you weren't expecting when you started it. This is such a good question. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I do, and I really wasn't expecting to end up a part of such a wonderful community here in the sewing corner of YouTube. I sort of thought I would just be like out there on some island alone, putting out these videos into like the abyss of like anonymous nothingness. So I'm really happy to be here and connecting with internet people about sewing, people who also share a love of sewing, and that has really been a joy for me. And I'm really grateful to have such a positive and like really inspirational place to like share and learn and like spend some of my time. Have you been inspired to sew anything based on all of your fun travels pre-COVID? This is another really good question. I recently mentioned in the vlog where I was decorating for Christmas that before COVID, my husband and I used to try and travel internationally as much as we possibly could, with like as much as his vacation days would allow, basically. But to answer your question, to be honest, there hasn't actually been any one particular thing that I've sewn based on my travels. But I do get very inspired by every place we've been, and it all kind of gets filed away up here, like waiting to like trickle out in some way or another. And I really love learning about all different kinds of fashion. I love learning about textile history, and it seems like every place we go, I do tend to seek out something sewing or fashion related. Like for example, in Vietnam, I went to some of the fabric markets and I bought some fabric there, and I went to a really interesting museum in Hanoi called the Vietnamese Women's Museum. And they had a lot of exhibits about historical traditional dress and textile history of within the country, and that was really interesting. In Japan, we went to the Bunka Fashion School and wandered around the school, and I ended up in the student store and I bought a seam ripper that said Bunka on it, and I looked through all of their student textbooks. They were all in Japanese, but they were really fun to look through. Actually in Kyoto, we went to a sewing shop called the Misuyabari Needle Store, which is like 360 or so years old family business, maybe 400 years old. Originally, they supplied handcrafted needles to the imperial court of Kyoto, like way back in the day. And it's this little tiny shop tucked in the back, like where you can hardly find it. And they sell these handmade needles and these handmade pins and little sewing notions. And I bought my pins there, and I bought some needles, and I bought a seam ripper, and I brought show and tell here for you. I bought this little pin with this handmade kitty on the top. Can you see that? I don't know if it's focusing. It's a little Siamese kitty on the top of a pin, just for decoration. Also in India, we went to the Sabarmati Ashram, which was one of the residences of Gandhi. And I'm not really gonna do a whole history lesson here, but essentially there, Gandhi created a school at that ashram. And one of the things that was taught was weaving this cloth called khadi cloth. And khadi cloth is like a homespun cotton, and you can still buy that fabric today, but Gandhi encouraged people to weave this kind of cloth and wear it with pride. And it was sort of a way of establishing and maintaining the heritage of the country. And it was a way for the people of India to show that they don't need to be reliant on outside goods. And so the cloth kind of became synonymous with his peaceful, nonviolent rebellion against British rule at the time. That's really simplified, but I actually bought some of that cloth. I brought it down for you to show you. And they have these government-run craft bazaars where you can buy handmade goods from the local region. So this is khadi cloth, and I haven't done anything with it because it's very special to me and I want to find just the perfect thing for it. So hopefully some days I will be able to make it into something beautiful. This is another kind of khadi cloth my husband picked out. Okay, next up. You said we could ask you anything. I'm nosy AF. Could you please do a tour of the room you're in? It looks so modern behind you and I'd love to see that space. That was a good question. Yes, I can show you the room behind me. There's not really much else to it. This is pretty much it, but I'll show it to you from a different angle. I'm gonna have to clean up some of the clutter that I've like strategically placed like out of view behind me. And yeah, let me show it to you. Okay, I've never done a house tour before, so bear with me, but this is the view from the other side of the room. If you're gonna walk in the front door, this would be your view. We have the kitchen on the left, bathrooms on the right, and as we move forward, we have the living room, and you can see where I filmed there in front of the window. The cat is resting on his blanket from his vet stay still. He's very tired. So yeah, here's like the little, I don't know, dining room, not really dining room, but there's like this section and then the living room section. And then let me flip around here. There's the bedroom is on the left, and then those are the loft stairs, and that is where I sew up there. So that's all there really is to it. That's the space that I'm in. We rent this place. I didn't design it myself, but it is a really cool apartment and I really love it. I wish it was a little bit bigger, but other than that, It's pretty cozy and I like it a lot. Let's go say hi to the kitty. Hi, baby. Are you tired from your vet visit? You want to say hi? Oh, poor baby, he's so tired. Okay, back to the questions. Next question. Tell us one thing you've sewn that has really surprised you. Could be the construction, fabric, or style that surprised you, good or bad. This was kind of a hard one. I was actually really surprised by the True Bias Nico top, and I feel like a broken record. I talk about that pattern so much, not sponsored, I promise. I kept hearing about that pattern over and over again on Instagram. It got very, very popular, but I kept writing it off because I thought it wouldn't look good on me, and I thought it wasn't really my style. But I would keep going back to it and I would look at it over and over again, and then I would talk myself out of it. And anyways, eventually I finally bought it, and I was really surprised that it didn't look terrible on me. And even without making any modifications, it wasn't bad at all. So I was half expecting to make it and then like never want to wear it, but it's actually become one of the few patterns that I've actually repeated. So I was really, really surprised that what I thought wasn't going to be my style and wasn't going to look good on me actually did. And so I'm really happy that I took a chance on that pattern. Okay, next up, how did you meet your husband? My husband and I met in college. My roommate was in an internship with him. They were in the same internship together, and we would run into each other at times randomly around campus, like when I was with my roommate and they would see each other and they'd say hi or whatever, and I never really thought much of it. But then during one of the summers, my roommate and I, we were having a housewarming party. We stayed roommates all 4 years. We're still friends today. We were having a housewarming party and he was invited. And so he came to our housewarming party and we got to know each other better, and the rest is history. We've been together since we were 20. We got married when I was 29 and I'm 35 now. So I'll let you do the math on that. So I had 2 questions about my job. What is your day job? And if I work outside the home, and if so, what type of work? I have my own business, so I don't technically work outside the house. I sell vintage clothing, and I've been doing that for about 11 years now in some capacity. I'd love to know how sewing has changed your style and your perception of yourself. Sewing has allowed me to be objective about my body. Of course, everyone has insecurities about their body. You may or may not have picked up on the fact that I don't particularly like my shoulders. I feel like they're too broad. My hips are very narrow in comparison. So I'm very self-conscious about it. No thanks to the kids who used to call me Ogre and Shrek in high school. So I've spent many years being down on myself about it. I've spent many years struggling with body image, with weight issues, but with sewing, I can forget all about that, because your body just becomes this geometric shape that has measurements, it has slopes, it has angles. You put it together and you use that information to adjust a flat 2D pattern, which then you can use your magical skills to create into a 3D garment made out of fabric that fits your body. So it really eliminates things like, oh, this part of me is too big, or this part's too small, or why don't I look like this person? You know, it's just a shape, it's very objective. So for many years, dressing used to be a way for me to hide my perceived flaws. That was always the goal with dressing myself. But sewing has really helped shift the focus off of dressing to hide the flaws. And it allows me to be constructive and create clothes that fit me. And then with that, I can be more confident in the clothes that I wear. And that lets my true style come through. So of course, you know, this is a process. I have good days and bad days. I'm still working on it. We're all still working on it. We're all just doing the best we can here. But that's sort of like an underlying theme behind my sewing journey. So yes, next question. Any decisions yet on the buttons? So I wasn't actually sure if this question was just for the Q&A or if she was just asking to ask. So I did answer in the comments before I remembered that I had asked the question in that video. But I do have a button update since then. So this is regarding my Marlowe sweater that I was making or made in the beginning of Vlogmas. And I finally got a chance to browse the internet for some buttons. And I ordered some off of Etsy. They're on their way to me right now. I chose these vintage camel brown leather buttons. So fingers crossed, they look good with the sweater. And when they get here, I'll be able to put them on and wear the sweater, and that's exciting. So, all right, that is all the questions I have to answer. I hope I didn't miss any. I hope you enjoyed hearing my answers and found it interesting in some way. So that is all I have for you today for Vlogmas Day 19. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow for Vlogmas Day 20.